AITA for kicking my SiL out after she threw away most of my single-use baby products and even formula. I'm a 19-year-old female with a 3-week-old baby daughter. I continue to live with my parents, but since I pay the same amount of rent as they do, they believe I have the same rights to decide who enters and goes from the home as they do. Before lately, I had never taken use of this guideline in my own personal life. My brother is 26 years old, and his wife is 24 years old. They are the crunchy parents of an 8-month-old child. Basically, what they are doing is idiotic. They are using reusable wipes/nappies, believe that formula is the pinnacle of evil are baby wearing, and the list goes on and on. In contrast, I use pacifiers, supplement with formula owing to a lack of supplies, disposable wipes, and nappies on a daily basis for my children. Because they are utterly opposed to the goods I use, they'd often send me items such as SiL's breast milk in bags, disposable diapers that their LO has outgrown, and so on. Despite the fact that I've tried it, it's not exactly my cup of tea. When my brother and sister-in-law took care of my kid on Monday night, it was because it was my birthday and my baby's father, who is not married, but they are very close friends and co-parents, took me out to dinner at one of my favorite fast food restaurants. It was wonderful and quite soothing. Upon my return home later that evening, my SiL informed me that she had done some cleaning and thrown away everything I don't need. These actions instantly raised red lights in my mind, but they were in a rush to go out the door and departed practically quickly thereafter. Every single disposable nappy and wipe pack had been removed from the nursery and replaced with some reusable cloth diapers and wipes packs when I arrived. The same thing happened with my formula. There were 8 tubs and they were all gone. I'm unable to replenish them at the time, and only nursing is not a viable option for us. I was quite angry, and I just switched off my phone to avoid being unpleasant to my sister-in-law. She and my brother came over to my house yesterday to pick up something they had forgotten, and it was at that point that I confronted her. I informed her that she would be required to replace everything she had thrown away. When she stated she couldn't afford it, I told her she could leave and not return until I'd been compensated or everything had been replaced with the original things, which she agreed to. My brother believes I'm being a complete jerk, and he's on his wife's side of the argument. Our parents believe that I am being totally reasonable in this situation, but they believe that informing her that she is not welcome to return is going too far. AITA, Story 2. AITA for exposing my parents' favoritism. My parents have always preferred my younger brother throughout the years. I was by no means unloved by those around me. However, it was obviously evident who they were more concerned about. I took a part-time job to save up for my first automobile, but my brother received one as a birthday gift instead. It wasn't brand new, but it was much more recent than my automobile. Clothing, video games, and mobile phones were all examples of how this was true for almost everything else. I'm 18 years old and am taking a year off before starting community college in order to work full-time and save money for tuition. However, I overheard my parents discussing how much they were planning to spend for my brother's college tuition a while ago. I discreetly taped the talk from behind the corner and then came out to confront my parents, demanding to know why they were paying for my brother's education but not mine, and they agreed. They didn't seem to realize that my phone was recording and just said that my brother needs further assistance. I inquired as to how this was possible given that I was not receiving any form of scholarship and that he was not going to get one either. In the next few minutes, I inquired as to why things had always been done in this manner. They were enraged, and my father said that it may be time for me to move out since they are tired of paying to maintain a roof over my head. I made it clear that I was a renter, but that didn't seem to matter to them. I stormed out of the room and, in a fit of wrath, published the video to 2 separate social media accounts I maintain, ranting about how this has always been the way my parents were. It wasn't until a few hours later that my parents came hammering on my door. My father was yelling at me about how I had ruined their reputation. We battled some more and they stormed out of the room in a huff. My grandparents got in touch with me afterwards and expressed their displeasure, and they then came to visit with the rest of the family the next day. In the aftermath of a massive family intervention, my parents were forced to sit on the sofa and stare at their feet while being lectured. It was at that point that I discovered they'd been getting money from my grandparents for years to assist with household costs. My brother seemed to be perplexed and unsure of what to do. As a result, he agreed with the rest of the family and said that he has also observed how I am handled. My parents extended a heartfelt apology that came out as forced. It has been many days since my grandparents have offered to have me move in with them and have agreed to stop making monthly payments to my parents. My father has told me that I should never have informed the rest of the family and has stopped speaking to me. My mother has been sobbing for days. As a result, I'm beginning to question if I went too far. So, AITA for bringing my parents' partiality into the open. Update. It has come to my attention that my choice has changed, and I have chosen to call my grandparents and accept their offer of a place to reside. The reason for the monthly payments to my parents was brought up during our phone discussion, and I inquired as to the basis for this decision. At that time, according to my mother, who had quit her job to be a full-time stay-at-home mom, my parents had been living over their means for a length of time. As part of their agreement, my grandparents promised to give them money on a monthly basis to aid with my parents' home payments, as well as to put away a portion of that money for college savings for both my brother and me, which would be shared evenly between the two of us. However, it was later discovered that my parents simply meant to utilize the money to assist my brother in his college study. The fact that they were able to get his car was also a result of this procedure. As a consequence, my parents will be on their own for the foreseeable future financially. My mother will almost probably have to return to work in order to help my father in making the mortgage payments on time. I went up to my parents and demanded to know why they had always treated my brother as if he were the most important person in the world. They refused to answer. Then he inquired as to if there was anything else he thought I should know. In fact, there was virtually nothing there at all. There's simply nothing to see here. I'm not interested in having an extramarital relationship. Even an unexpected pregnancy didn't pose an issue for them. Just to be clear, they chose my brother over me. I was angry as hell, and we got into a lengthy and intense dispute that ended with me walking out of the room because I'd had enough. My grandparents surprised me on Saturday by showing up with a moving truck. It was a lovely surprise. My folks were taken aback as soon as we started bringing boxes into the home to begin packing. The interference of my father was unavoidable, and I reminded him that he had previously said that I should relocate, which I had already done. Suddenly, my mother burst into tears, stating that my father had been annoyed at the time when he said this, and that they had been counting on my rent money at the time to contribute to my brother's college fund. Upon learning this, I inquired as to if it meant he would have avoided having to pay rent, as I had to do when he was 18 years old. Afterwards, my father pointed out that, while I was taking a gap year to work, the money from my rent might have been used to assist my brother instead. As a result, it seems that they never intended for him to get employment while attending college. My grandpa became enraged and launched an assault on my father, claiming that he had raised him better than this. He reprimanded him, saying he'd never been more disappointed in a person in his life, and that they would no longer be eligible for financial aid from the state of California. Afterwards, he threatened to excommunicate them if they ever sought to retaliate against me for disclosing their names. After he backed down, neither my father nor my mother uttered another thing to me in front of anybody. When my brother and I were saying our goodbyes, it seemed a little weird to be having a conversation with one another, and there was the conclusion of the matter. I just got into my car and drove away. It was that easy. I finished the process of settling into my new room at my grandparents' residence. Although it is a little smaller, it is still very wonderful. My grandparents, on the other hand, are quite warm and welcoming. After this, I want to put up further effort to go forward, and I'm grateful for everyone's encouraging words.